It's time to wander the world with Sharon. Enjoy this Big Blend radio podcast featuring award-winning travel writer and photographer Sharon K. Kurtz. Welcome, everyone. Today, Sharon is taking us on a river cruise through the Storybook region of Bavaria. And this was a solo travel cruise, which is really pretty unique. And as I've heard, river cruising is always a big deal, right? But traveling solo cruises are changing up how they do things. So I'm very excited to hear about this. She did it through Riviera Travel. You can go to rivieratravel.com. That is linked in the episode notes, as is her article. So check that out so you can see all the beautiful photos and everything that she took on this incredible solo adventure. But I know she made friends while she was doing it. And this is part one, and part two is coming up next month, where she talks about train travels in Germany. So how are you doing, Sharon?
Really well, and happy to be here.
Yeah, always good. Always good. So this is like storybooks, like you say, that's going through Bavaria. So give everyone a visual. So Bavaria is like what, the southeast section of Germany?
Yes, it is. Actually, we were in Bavaria and Franconia. And why people haven't heard about Franconia is it used to be its own special place, but through history, it got like divided and fighting, and it got merged into Bavaria. But they are very proud, and they have a different flag, and they have different customs. So we went on a 7-night cruise of all these little storybook fairy tale villages in Bavaria and Franconia.
Wow. Now, do you believe in fairies? I have to ask that, because don't you see them in like all these medieval buildings, and the architecture is kind of magical. It does take you back to childhood a little bit, right?
Yeah. And, as a gift for my granddaughter, I brought her a little dirndl. If you're like dancing in your white puffy sleeves and it laces up, and it reminds me, I told her she was a fairy princess, a German fairy princess. And so that reminds me of fairy tales from Bavaria.
Very nice. And I can imagine the food being excellent.
It was so good. Schnitzel and sauerbraten, and now German food tends to be heavy, but it's delicious, and you just eat less of it.
Well, apparently I have a problem because I don't know about the less of it. But, Bavaria is where Oktoberfest started.
Yeah, yes. So on our trip in Franconia, they are more wine drinkers. It's a different climate, and the castle right there in Würzburg behind your head, those are grapevines coming down, and that's the wine region. And then southern Bavaria is very much the beer region. So it's Oktoberfest and Lederhosen and all those things.
A little bit of Texas, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you've got those two connections, and I got to bring that up with you being in Texas. Now, solo travel, I wanted to touch on this because I'm hearing more and more travel reports that cruise lines and all these places that didn't used to really cater too well to the solo traveler have really, they did, but even pricing had to change up a little bit. Everyone is getting better, right?
Well, I have so many exciting things to talk about. I went with Riviera Travel. And U.S. travelers, that's going to be a new one to you because they have been in business for 40 years from the UK. When I went on this cruise that started in Nuremberg and went to Men's, I was the only American traveler. Most of them were British. And so when you travel this way, you get a whole nother aspect of culture. You have British culture in addition to learning about Germany and all the little villages. So what's exciting was Riviera Travel invited me because they have opened up an office in in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and they're catering now to U.S. travelers. They want U.S. travelers to join them. And this is why. I traveled as a solo traveler. They have, up till now, a few solo cruises a year in the shoulder seasons. But guess what? So that I traveled on one where it was mixed company. It was 130 travelers, about 30 of us were solos, and it was fun. And I love river cruises, and you always find your people. But now, starting in 2027, they are starting something completely new. They will be the first ever solo cruise boat. It only is for solos, always. Every single cruise will be a solo cruise. You will get, and it's never been done, on a ship with 70 cabins, they will only have 68 people on the ship. And that doesn't mean that you can be a solo traveler, but you can travel with your family, with your mom and your sisters, or maybe your book club. But this means everyone has fun all day long on all the excursions. It's everything is included. The spirits, the excursions, the wonderful food. And then at night you go to your own cabin, which used to be for two people. Now it's all yours and you get to relax and it's going to be fabulous. That's my exciting news. That happened
That is.
while I was cruising in Bavaria. The tour manager said, "You can't tell anyone," because it was coming out like that later that very day, that this new exciting news about a my boat was called the Miss George Eliot because a lot of their boats are based on literary
Mhm.
characters. And this boat, the Miss George Eliot, will be the first and only, up till now, solo only cruise ship.
Wow. So this is big news. This
It
is cool.
is big news.
Now, it looks like, and it sounds like from your article that you had a wonderful, wonderful experience. Not only the food and everything, but the excursions were incredible. And yeah, you got a lot of history in, and just was the cabin nice and cozy? Like what?
Oh, it's all updated. It's really soothing colors. You have as much mine had a French balcony where you open it and you can just, like, put your head out and look all around the river as you go by. So it was big and spacious and it had everything room for everything I needed. It had all of the plugs I needed. It was a closets were good. Bathroom was good. So yeah, it's a beautiful ship. Yes. Internet is included. I didn't have any interruption. We could have even taped a session from Germany if we wanted to. It's all good.
I think you were too busy running around and having fun
Oh yeah.
to do the podcast from there. But so this is exciting. So you did 7 nights, and which I really like because you're just unpacked. You just get
Yeah.
on and off, and you can see the river, and that to
Yeah.
me is just yeah. If you want to relax a bit, this is a beautiful thing. So and not so many people on there. Now let's talk about. It was kind of quiet, but the food on board. You said there were two different places to eat, and one of them. I mean, you have views while you're eating, right?
So on the ship, you have a big lounge and bar area with panoramic windows all the way around. That's in the front of the ship. And that's where you gather for lounge activities. We had trivia games in there. At night, that's where we had a musician who played the guitar, the piano, sang. So on a river cruise or this one, the entertainment and the extras are kind of low key, but that's what I like. Just
Mm-hmm.
visiting and reading and hanging out. There's no casinos or big parties on ship. But then we ate underneath the lounge on the bottom level, also with windows all the way around. So everyone, there's one eating time. It's open seating. You sit where you like. They have all manner of, tables for two, four, six, big, all kinds of things. But then they have an aft restaurant that is really kind of exclusive. It's much smaller, so you reserve it in advance, and everybody on the ship, 130 people, can eat there once, and noon and night. And there you have whole views of the aft of the ship as you go down the river. You see the whole back of the river.
Oh, that's amazing. So the food, you had German food, right? You had to have had German food.
Yeah, we had all kinds. It was always a big spread in the morning. You could have scones and tea. You could, like English style. They had English breakfasts, but then they're introducing more types of food because they're going to get more types of travelers, not just English travelers.
Yeah.
And eggs Benedict and all sorts of, but lots of, I'm a yogurt and pastry gal in the morning. That's kind of my thing. So good coffee and everything you want. But then every day is different. We had one night was the captain's dinner where it's a big fancy menu with lots and lots of courses. And there's always German offerings in the region of German that you're traveling. And especially the wine. There is really good wine in Germany.
Oh, yes, there is. Oh my. Okay, so this is good. Good food. Got good views, and now
Yep.
you're going to go through storybooks. I mean, really, these just gorgeous. I mean, oh boy, this is amazing. So let's start. You said Nuremberg was like the start of it, and then that was also your hub that we're going to talk about for the next month, right? I was going to say tomorrow. I'm like, oh,
Right,
we're going to
right.
have another one. Yay.
Yeah. So the cruise started in Nuremberg and we got on board. We learned everything, met everyone. And the next morning we toured Nuremberg. And, the only thing I knew about Nuremberg was from high school and junior high, learning about the Nuremberg trials. That's why it's important. But it's so much more than that. It's an old imperial city. It's still the walls around it. Now, it was of these 7 cities we visited, some were completely destroyed in World War II and rebuilt, and some were not touched hardly at all. And you see authentic, half-tindered architecture, but they were all storybook-like. But the castle in Nuremberg is still there, and we went up to the castle, learned about the history, and went to Old Town.
So they have old towns. Their old towns are old towns,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
very.
No, yeah, you said in there, okay, so you got good food there too. You were talking about in your article that you had classic Franconian sausages.
Yes,
What?
they're known. Nuremberg sausages are famous. Like if we went to another city, let's just say we were in Rothenburg, they also have on the menu Nuremberg sausages. They're known for that because they're small and you get like 3. If you're having a bun, like a hot dog kind of thing, you have 3 of them in there. But they serve these wonderful sausages with everything you can imagine, sauerkraut. And you'll have a pretzel and you'll have cabbage and, well, that is sauerkraut basically. But anyway, they were
Yeah.
really good. And they're also known for gingerbread.
Ooh.
So you have to buy gingerbread in Nuremberg, and we did. And it comes in like a big, dense cake, and you can eat it all week long, and it doesn't get stale.
We're getting to that season, aren't we? Gingerbread season. So I wonder if that, the gingerbread houses and everything, all that, I bet comes from that area then.
Yeah,
That
and
tradition is
Nuremberg is
connected.
known for its Christmas festival. You know how people like to go to the Christmas villages in the
Oh, yeah.
wintertime, especially on cruises, and Nuremberg is a very big one. So we could see how it would be set up, and it would be great to go back in the wintertime and go to.
Well, it sounds like Nuremberg has got a lot going for it. I wanted to hear about, so your first stop, of course, you love to go to UNESCO World Heritage Sites, and that's what you did. You went to Bamberg, if I'm pronouncing that
Yeah.
correctly, Bamberg. And so this is truly a medieval city.
Yes, it is. It is so beautiful. It was not damaged in World War II, and it is known for its old city hall. On the article and in pictures, you'll see it. It's like half timbered, but it's got frescoes on it. And in the medieval days, the city was divided in 2. They had the lower city, and then they had a river, and then they had the upper city. And so the inhabitants at the time didn't want that anymore. And they drove whole trees into the river bed and built an island. And the old city hall spans this, and that's where they would go to pay their tolls and their taxes. And it's a beautiful, beautiful city and building.
This is cool. All right. I'm a little jealous. I'm just saying. I think, the river cruises are attractive to me because it just seems very calm and relaxed and oh wait, but you had beer in Bamberg.
Oh my God. It is
We
known.
can-
That's one of the cities that is known for its beer. And they have this beer called Rausch beer, which is, get this, smoked beer. If you like your beer tasting like it's got a ham hock in it, smoked ham hock, or maybe that it sat out by the fire too much and it's got that aroma of the
Yeah.
fire, that's what it tastes like. So if you have a beer lover at home, they were all bringing home Rausch beer to give their loved one who loved beer because it's a very unique taste. Not for me, but it's unique.
Bet I would like it with some smoked sausage and some, you know what I had the other day that I've not had is beer cheese. So now
Really?
I would like beer cheese with sausage and smoked beer. This
There
is
you
now
go. Rausch beer. It's for you.
okay. Well, then now I really have to go do this, and you don't have to drive. You could just get back on your ship and
Yeah.
float. Yeah. Yeah. This is sounding definitely like a place for me to be.
One of the other great things about this tour is that it was called Medieval Germany and the Romantic Road. So our river we were on, it was a canal, like the Danube Main Canal, it was called, and there were 50 locks on our canal. In 7 days, we went through 50. That's where the riverboat comes up and it either raises or falls to meet the new water level. And that was fun. Then we went to Würzburg. That is also a UNESCO city, and it's known for its Grand Residence Palace that's an UNESCO site. Back in the day, Würzburg was ruled by the prince bishops. That was like
Mm,
ruled by the pope, basically.
yeah.
And they were so wealthy. So one of the prince bishops along the way had grand ideas, and he built this palace residence that was like no other. It's got the largest mural in the world on the ceiling of this palace. Then during World War II, it was bombed. But remember, you hear about the monument men who saved
Mm.
artworks during World War II? Well,
Yes, yes. There was a
they
movie
are
on that too.
Yes, well, they were the ones who saved this palace because the fresco, the bombs burnt the roof, but it didn't make it down enough to reach the fresco. So they pulled all the strings to save this incredible, valuable
Wow.
piece of art. And the ceiling, the fresco stayed, and now they renovated the whole building, and it is really incredible. It's this little bitty town, and you feel like you're in the Sistine Chapel in Rome. It's that big and
That's
that big,
amazing.
and
That's so cool to be able to be there and, that kind of artwork. And it's so, it's old,
they managed to save, and what they had to recreate, it's like a perfect match. And so, and the gardens, it has beautiful gardens. And
mm,
what else is special about Würzburg is this is one of the cities where they love wine. And underneath the Würzburg, the Grand Residence, is a wine cellar with the local wines. They bring them in, and we saw them bringing them into the courtyard, and their wine cellars where they produce the wine is underneath the palace.
did you get to have some?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I have to talk about the famous, bottle. It's called um I brought one here, and I can't hold it up because it makes the picture go weird,
Yeah.
but it's called a a buck a buck boy. It's special, round. It's a special Frocanian wine. It's round and thin, and that word means ram's scrotum or maybe sheep balls, but it's shaped like in the medieval times, they used to fill that vessel, a ram's scrotum, up with wine and tie it to their belt and go up into the mountains. And sheep balls are nice and round, so is the bottle. So there you go.
Wow. And then you just did the trail of sheep in Idaho. Did you look for,
Yeah. I didn't they don't have that kind of wine. Maybe they didn't get with the program, but that's
uh,
very special wine, and I brought some home. It's called Sylvaner, and it is the best wine.
you get some interesting,
Yep.
fun facts out there when you travel. Now, Rothenburg, Rothenburg is that where it's next to
Yes.
Würzburg or
I got out of order because I got so excited talking about the smoked beer, but we went to
was it the
Rothenburg.
smoked beer or is it
Yeah.
or the sheep balls?
I don't know which one, but Rothenburg was an imperial free city, and that means that in the holy it was a self-governing imperial city, which was really good for trade and all kinds of things. So it was not hurt during World War II bombing. So it's all original with these beautiful. It is like the ultimate fairy tale village, and you have to say Rothenburg ob der Tauber, which means Rothenburg over the Tauber River,
Oh, okay.
and they have these colorful buildings, and they have an original wall and still the city gates, and you can climb the wall and go like around 2 miles around the city on this wall.
Wow, you like that. You were in Quebec last month talking
Yeah,
about walking the
yeah.
wall.
12 cities. So the other fun thing for travelers is it has the most incredible Christmas store in Rothenburg. It is like they have more Christmas ornaments for sale than anywhere else, the largest selection of Christmas ornaments in the world. And they're all like German made. They're not like imports from China or anything. So the people that started this Christmas store ended up buying 5 additional old properties, putting them all together. And inside, it's almost like Disneyland for German Christmases with
Oh my gosh.
all kinds of beautiful ornaments and setups. And you could walk there forever. And that's perfect for gifts to take home.
That's dangerous. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
It is.
Yeah. I think, wine and Christmas, we're going. So Wertheim, is it
Yeah.
Wertheim? Wertheim and
More time,
Miltenberg.
not the TH, but that is an interest. So we pulled, as I said, you go right up and you just moor right on the waterfront and you step out and you go into town. That's what's nice. You don't have to ferry out from anywhere or tender in, or you're just right in the city. So Worthtown is interesting because unlike an imperial city or the prince ruled by prince bishops, this one is still owned by the duke, the same family that owned it in the 16.
Wow.
He's still the duke of the town. But what's interesting is we got on this one, we got to take a tour, a walk. We walked like there were 12 of us. We walked up to the very top of the castle. But now it's a castle ruins because, you might not have the best employees nowadays. They may make terrible mistakes. But this one in the 1600s, there was a servant who lived in the castle and he left his candle going all night, and he happened to be next to the store of gunpowder. And so the whole castle blew up in the
Including
1600s.
him.
Well, probably. We didn't talk about
Yeah.
that. I don't know that unless it
Yeah.
was like the next day, but we won't go there. But
Yeah.
anyway, we got to walk in these castle ruins and they were so beautiful. And the Duke, then his family had to move out, of course. I think he moved out ahead of time, but he's across the river and he's elderly now. But I just think it's amazing that this history has continued.
That's
So it was
amazing.
fun going on the castle walk. And
Now, what about Miltenberg, the Pearl on the Main?
yeah. So now we're going down this canal and now we're on the main river, and that's a tributary
Okay.
of the Rhine rivers. Actually, the
Oh,
picture behind me, that is Miltenberg right there. Isn't that
beautiful.
beautiful?
Oh
So
my gosh.
the river opens up, and what's amazing about Miltenberg was it was not damaged in World War II, and it has the most beautiful architecture with
Mm.
half-timbered houses and all these ancient breweries and places to go and an old main part of the city. But what really got to me in Miltenberg was we had a lovely guide woman, and she brought us to a place and she told us about the Stoppelstein. They are little brass plaques that designates where Holocaust victims live, and it
Oh
tells
wow.
their name and it tells when they were taken and what happened to them and
Wow.
all their family members. And it's called Stolperstein, meaning stooping stuff, because you have to actually get way down low to read it, and that makes you pay more attention and
Mm.
you notice and you remember. And she told
That's
us the story about her. She married into she's from Norway, I think. She married into a family, and how her husband actually was a boy, but he lived in those times, and what happened to the Jewish families. And it's
wow.
just, there's so much history there that is hard to talk about, but
Yeah.
we can't forget it. We have
No.
to remember.
Going to these places like, it's just, and I'm glad that they're putting it out there, in
Yeah.
remembrance.
Yes, it's
It's
really
a
important, and they know it's important. That's why in Nuremberg, they told us we went to where they had the Nuremberg trials. We went to the Nazi parade grounds to see this building, and they talked very openly about history. This is what happened in history. This is why it can't happen again. So
hopefully
everybody,
not.
yeah, everybody is aware and they don't hide anything.
Well, it's a lesson for the world. I mean, these
Yeah.
world wars came from, look, I mean, it's just, it can happen. Humans do bad things. I mean, we still have wars going on right now, and so we got to remember that. I think it's so important. It's so important. And when you travel to places like this, it really makes things real. Like when we were in school learning all this history, you get it. But then when you actually go, it really is a very tender, sad, yet it becomes very real. And so when you see things like in the news and everything, it feels different than not going to a place like that. It's like Gettysburg or,
Yeah.
in this country or something. Once you go to battlefields and learn the realities of war, numbers of people dead, numbers of, things like that aren't just numbers,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, when we talk about that kind of information, that little town of Wertheim, well, that's special because they had a big time Nazi in town. And when the Allied troops were getting close, this Nazi that was important, like had a lot of weight in the town, said, "We are blocking off our roads. They're not getting in. No matter what, to the death you fight." And the women of the town and their children said, the women said, "No, we're not doing that. We're not." And so in the night, the women gathered and they went out and they took down the barricades, and then one of their sons went up to the castle and had a white flag, and the Allies came in and they did not destroy the town, and that Nazi was long gone before the morning when they arrived. So
Wow.
you have to
Wow.
be they were brave. They went through a lot, and some of them were very, very brave, the
Yeah,
women.
absolutely. Oh, I hear another women's show coming up with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I learned
Yeah.
so many stories.
Oh, wow. We'll have to do that. So you finished the cruise experience in Mainz, and what gets me there is some of the most, ancient history. And then I want to talk about St. Stephan's Church, because that sounds absolutely gorgeous. But am I right? It was like the ancient Romans were there?
The ancient Romans, yes, they found all kinds of artifacts when they dig there. So that was like a Roman stronghold back in the day. But Mainz was the end of our trip, and that's where the Mainz River, which is a tributary of the Rhine, and goes into the Rhine, and the river opens up. So right there in front of me, that is Mainz. That we were approaching the bridge, and we docked right there, just
Oh,
short of the bridge. So Mainz, it is now a bigger city, the bigger by far of the other little villages we were in, and it was almost destroyed in World War II, but they rebuilt it.
yeah. And the article, what I thought was also fascinating was the St. Stephan's Church. Did you get to go inside there?
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to do the most, and we had a wonderful guide who took us on a tour of the town, but took us to the church. And why it's special is it has Marc Chagall stained glass windows in it. Those beautiful windows, 7 of them, that in this very plain church, that is the center focus. Marc Chagall is a Jewish person. He had terrible memories of Germany and the Nazis, and he did it in the end as a request by this very persistent clergy member, and he did it for reconciliation between Judaism and Christians. And it was done between 1978 and 85, and it is spectacular. The only Chagall windows in Germany.
Wow. Wow. So it's beautiful to go in. And I have a thing about stained glass. It just feels, I don't know, they go with your different chakras. We have different colors in our chakras. And I think when we are in a spiritual place and you see the stained glass, I don't know, it's like a connection to everything. I don't know. I'm just being weird.
Are beautiful and blue, and they have story in each panel of the stained glass. He has stories of Jesus being born, and he's a Jew, but he has, going back to Abraham, and he's got all these Bible stories all woven throughout, and they're beautiful and
Wow.
very touching.
Now, wanted to touch on this because you're talking about all these tributary rivers, like Mainz, and that it's connected to the Rhine or connected to this. When you're on the cruise, do they like give you history and everything on board the ship? I know you were talking about the entertainment, but is there any historical novel, not novel? Do they put a novel in your room so you can read the history? But that's a good idea. But do they give you kind of a background of where you're sailing and cruising through?
Yeah, that's one of the special things with river cruises and Riviera in particular. The cruise manager, she would have a briefing every day where we would all go to the lounge with whatever libation you want, coffee, whatever, and you sit and she would have on a screen, she would tell us all about our next stop, and she would show us videos, and she would tell us the history. And then when we got off the ship, we had our choice of guides. Some were for maybe a slower pace, and some a higher. Like I took the hike up to the top of the castle that I love,
Yeah.
but some people are not. They can't do that kind of hikes. So they had all manner, but every day we had an excursion that was really worthwhile.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everyone, Sharon will be back next month. Gosh, can you believe we're getting in towards December? And hey, I love that we talked a little bit about the Christmas markets and
Yes.
the Christmas setting. But part 2 of her adventures in Germany will be in our December episode. And she'll be talking about Nuremberg and train travel. And I'm very excited to hear part 2. Again, her article is linked in the episode notes. You can check that out, as well as rivieratravel.com. You want to check that out and start planning, because I know everyone's looking at, planning for 2026. And I think you may want to get going for 2027 soon.
I know everybody has to remember this is going to be so cool. I want to be on the first all solo cruise that they have.
All
We'll
right.
have our own cabin, and then we could
Isn't
all.
that cool?
Yeah.
Wow. I think that's refreshing. And just to have that calmness of some alone time as well, just as
Oh,
humans,
yeah.
we need it.
I think I said it explicitly. This is with no single supplement. That is the thing. Maybe they have, you can go as a solo traveler, but then it's that awful single supplement. You're like, why do I have to pay double? if I'm a
Exactly.
single? But this ship, they're all your own cabins. There is no single supplement. You get all the same thing that you got as a couple for yourself.
See, I think that's important. We shouldn't be taxed, I'm putting that in quotation marks, for being solo travelers. And what I've been reading is solo travel is up, especially for women.
Yes.
It's a big deal. It's what we want to do. And back in the day, we weren't supposed to,
No.
Remember, like, you couldn't even go into town without a chaperone and things.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I used to work for a women's travel company, and when she started, like in the early 90s, some people still have that attitude. What? You're going to leave George at home? Well, how's he going to eat? What's he going to, who's going to make his meals? And
Oh,
you
boy.
really cannot leave your husband if you're married. That was a no-no. And traveling solo, yeah, you needed, like, earlier than that, a chaperone. Times have changed.
Wow. Yeah, when you think about that, I think husbands can make their own meal.
Yeah, I think so.
That's right. So here it is.
DoorDash, there's all, he doesn't even have to make them. He just orders in.
Yeah, and there's such a wonderful thing called pizza. Great for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, okay? And dessert, okay? So everyone, again, it's 2027, the world's first solo-only river cruise ship. And again, go to rivieratravel.com. You're going to want to start booking early, definitely, for something like that. Thank you so much, Sharon. We'll talk next month.
It was fun. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Wander the World with Sharon podcast. You can keep up with Sharon's adventures at SharonKKurtz.com. Follow Big Blend Radio at BigBlendRadio.com. Happy travels!